Yeah, here you see the link. The link is now going to be pasted in the chat. And basically, probably most of you have used this interactive tool, Mural. And with this tool, we will be holding the discussions, the dynamics behind the discussions and brainstormings. So later on, we will give you more clear instructions. On the agenda, just jumping quickly into the agenda. First of all, we are going to give you some contextual information as a kind of reminder on what is the starting point for this exercise. Then quickly we'll present to you the approach. What is the approach to do this kind of semantic modeling on different pieces of information requirements coming from the regulation. And then as item 4, we will do the bulk of the work today. So basically this is where we need your input, your feedback through Mural, interactive discussions, to identify and prioritize what are the key concepts in your view, based on information that already some of you share with us in this Excel file. So basically today the discussion will go around the main concepts to identify at least the core key concepts that we should keep in mind. And finally, we will give you an overview of next steps. So starting by the contextual information and background information on the gateway, on this exercise related to the single digital gateway. Yes, basically, looking at the legal requirements in Article 4 of the regulation, there is a kind of obligation, or let's say a requirement, so that obliging the Commission to ensure that through the YourEurope portal, the potential users should get access to online information in the 3 main areas of the gateway of Part 1 of the SDGR. Information about rights, obligations, and rules, as referred to in Article 2.2, and it's basically those areas in Annex 3, if I'm not mistaken. Information about procedures refer to the same article, but point B. And then the assistance and problem solving. So this point is Annex 2, and information about assistance and problem solving services related to the Annex. I don't know, honestly, I don't know if it's 1 of 3. And then based on this kind of wish to provide information, detailed information about those areas, the 3 areas, in Articles 9, 10, and 11, it is defined the information requirements, the specific pieces of information that any citizen or business should be able to see when accessing your Europe portal, for the sake of completeness, and also to have a kind of an harmonized view, regardless of the country or the competent authority, the different administrative levels, supporting or providing this kind of information, either on procedures, assistance and problem solving services, and rights and obligations. This is the legal background. As the second consideration, we had bilateral discussions with some of you, and we can jump to the next slide, before the end of last year, through the last period of 2020 in autumn. And in these bilaterals, basically, we conducted a number of interviews with some of you to identify areas where we can give some kind of support, assistance to you in general, not only when it comes to the regulation, also building Catalogue of Services, digitalizing administrative procedures or public services. And we identify at this stage that, of course, there was interest to further work on a potential data model for the information requirements of these procedures, assistance services, and other pieces of information of the regulation, Articles 9 and 11. And also to work more on the semantic and technical support of modeling activities for National Catalogue of Services, building the National Catalogue of Services. So the outcome was that 10 countries out of 14 show interest in starting designing this kind of or modeling these information requirements linked to the single digital gateway. And there was the strong message, of course, to reuse as much as possible existing data models at EU level, like the core public service vocabulary application profile. That is also, let's say, one of the main working areas in this project, in Catalogue of Services. Okay, so next slide, please. What we have seen after these discussions and thinking carefully inside the team, looking at what's going on in general in this project and the implementation of the single digital gateway, what we did in the past, supported member states to catalog their public services at different administrative levels, we perceived that there could be strong benefits behind having a common data model to describe these information requirements that are very much needed to provide the information through the YourEurope portal. And I will start in the reverse order. In my view, the logical, what you see in this slide, probably for me, the first benefit following a kind of more logic from the implementation point of view is that, first of all, having a common data model could help to start the digitalization of the information. We understand that the situation is not easy and there are a lot of competent authorities involved. The level of digitalization varies a lot, substantially across member states, but also inside the same member state. So the first benefit could help. This benefit, I mean, this data model as the first benefit could help starting to digitalize the information and to access this information at national level through the national different web pages, and to make this information machine readable, of course, to automate the information, the display of the information, and the gathering, the collection of the information, the harvesting, and so on, having a kind of common data model and common template. If we have this data model and the information is machine readable, of course, it helps to automate and to ease the gathering, the retrieval of the information from different data sources, regional, national catalog of services, and also start doing some cleaning up, aligning descriptions, getting rid of redundant descriptions, looking at where are the gaps, and so on, and reducing duplication, of course, and bringing quality at the end of the day to the information about services. And furthermore, by having this kind of machine readable approach, information can be reused and can be enriched information in a more cross-border level, across overarching level at the European level. And probably the SDG is the main, could be the main beneficiary, because now it's the main piece of legislation in a way, promoting a kind of harmonized approach to describe information on major areas of the internal market. And finally, by having this kind of more enriched and harmonized information in a machine-readable, automated way, it's going to ease the burden of citizens and businesses when they are looking for information, in this particular case through the YourEurope portal. So basically, the system will be much better off. The user experience will improve, helping to find information much easily, and also from the back office to understand in the different workflows that could be implemented behind, to understand what is the quality of the information, to help to keep a much closer control on how to keep the information up to date, and so on. So we believe these are potentially some benefits behind this data model. Okay, next slide, please. So today we will present to you the approach, and this is coming now. Florian will present to you the approach for creating, we call it a service model. Let's say a kind of common vocabulary to help to describe the most important information about services in the context of the requirements of these quality information requirements of Articles 9 till 11. The approach here is to remain very pragmatical. Of course, probably a wise approach could be a phased or stepwise approach, starting by something simple that could complement, the information that at this stage is being semantically tagged and harvested through the repository of links in the YourEurope portal. I mean, this is the first consideration. There is already a mechanism to collect this information. What we are doing here is kind of more a stepwise approach to start providing more enriched descriptions, information on those areas touched by Articles 9 and 11 and the 3 annexes. But the message is to identify what is really, really core and could work maybe in a first stage to not to overload competent authorities. It's very complicated, we understand, to start working in a very structured data models. So the work here today is to define something and to check with you what you consider is feasible in the short term. And from this point on, we could start building, let's say, something more sophisticated in years to come. So we don't want to do now something overkilling. And this is also a strong message that is very much aligned with that from the colleagues of GROW. It's just to bring added value to the current implementation of the repository of links. Okay. So today, basically, these are the objectives. From my side, I think that's all. So I give the floor to Florian. No? He will be explaining much better the methodology and the approach. Okay.
Great. Thanks, Miguel, and good morning, everyone. And of course, if you have questions or reactions on what we are saying, don't hesitate to put them in the chat. That's made for that. Good. So if we start with the general approach, here we have separated it in 3 main, let's say, phases. What we'll do today is mainly tackling the first point, classifying and identifying the key concepts that, as Miguel explained, would lead to a model that is as easily as possible implementable by everyone as part of this goal. And from there, of course, we go through the different steps of the creation of this model, and we'll come to that in a minute more in details. And as Miguel mentioned, we call this the SDG Services model. And the question is, what does the name services here means or represent? And Miguel mentioned that, okay, it covers the quality requirements from Article 9, 10, and 11 mainly. And when you look at those 3 articles, what are they talking about? They are talking about rights, obligation, and rules. That's Article 9. About procedures, that's Article 10. And about assistance and problem-solving services, that's Article 11. And so basically in the name, we try to capture those 3 aspects with the term services, but of course, happy to discuss that with you later on. And then in the third phase, which we put it as kind of optional, it's basically if the outcome of this modeling exercise is successful, and if we have some volunteers to try it out, we could have a piloting phase where we basically start harvesting the information using this data model in order to publish it on YourEurope. So this is an optional part on which we will need to discuss further to agree on the specific scope and objectives of this part, but that's an idea that is also on the table. And so in all those steps, what is the desired role for you? It's mainly to provide input and participate actively in the discussions during the webinars, of course, but also through GitHub, via email. So basically using the channels that are available. And this concerns mainly the first and second points, while in the third points, it's as I said, it's mainly on a voluntary basis, and so we'll see if we will proceed with this last step and who is willing to participate in this pilot. So desirable is mainly on the modeling side at first. And then if we go to the next, this exercise is not starting from scratch. There are a lot of things that are around. We have also the regulation, of course, as mentioned by Miguel. So what have we already identified, of course, is the repository of links, for which all of you, since December and progressively after that as well, have started feeding the YourEurope and the repository of links with metadata tags. And of course, the idea with this model is to reuse what was agreed there, but to enrich it. And of course, there is a key difference between the two exercises, being that the repository of links, as its name indicates, focuses on links, web pages, while the model, the SDG Services model that we are focusing here is focusing on services, covering the three main articles, 9 to 11. A second important part or perspective that we would like to take into account, also based on the input we received during the bilaterals, concern existing standards and open specifications that are around and that we would like to reuse. And so the idea is to make use of existing standards like CPS-VAP, the core vocabularies, other models that you are aware of as part of this exercise. And I saw that someone raised his hand.
Yes, Marco raised his hand.
Yeah, so Marco, I don't know if you want to react on or ask a question.
Hi, this is Marco from the Netherlands. Hey. I was wondering, how does this work relate to the SDG data model that we developed last year?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And if we go then to the next slide, voila. So I'm coming to that. Thanks for raising.
Hey, thank you very much.
So as most of you know, because most of you were involved in this exercise as well, we have done an initial proposition last year. And this is, of course, the idea that we reuse when relevant what has been defined there and what has been agreed. But here we are taking a step back and really starting from the key concepts that are required. Well, the proposition last year was quite extensive as from the beginning. We can share the link to the GitHub space where you can find the information in the chat, definitely. But so, Marco, to answer you clearly, we will reuse this exercise. It will be used as a source of information, but we are not bound to what we have developed there.
Okay, thank you.
Are there other reactions to this?
Yeah, please, any question on the whole approach, on what we have presented so far? Questions, doubts, worries?
Okay. Otherwise, no worries. We'll continue, and of course, yeah, a new question posted in the Q&A. So, Ana Rosa, I see your question. Registering a vehicle abroad can be seen as one of or several administrative private procedures, depending on the number of company and authorities involved. Is your use case proposed for only the case of one public authority involved in the registration? Not really, but I think it's a matter of discussion. But normally, the information we would like to capture is at a high level, and then it's up to the member state to decide to which level of granularity we can go. But I don't know if you want to explain further your question.
Yes, my question is, you are modeling information. You said about articles 9, 10, and 11. Of course, the 3 articles are regarding different concepts. So you're saying that the Catalogue of Services is considering the 3 of them. But I mean, we never discussed the case of Article 9 and Article 11, only Article 10, but also in Article 10, procedures included in Annex 2 are not atomic procedures in most of cases. And registering a vehicle abroad, that I see that is the use case proposed in the
mural.
Yes, is one of the more complex ones, because it normally involves private companies and several public authorities. So before defining any concept, we need to know the scope of the concept. So which is the procedure in your model? Which each procedure is a complex procedure composed by different procedure, or is a atomic procedure that is processing by only one competent authority? Because in the administration, the public administration, normally a competent authority process only one procedure. They can be you can have several procedures that are dependent, but only one competent authority is in charge, is competent to process one particular procedure. So we also in Spain, we have this kind of conversation, the meaning of the term procedure, because even there are people that consider also the steps of the procedure as individual procedures. So, I mean, I don't know if you have the answer of that, because we couldn't reach an agreement in Spain. So
I don't know, Miguel, if you want to answer directly or start.
I mean, just at this stage, me personally, and Rosa, honestly, I don't have the answer. I think the starting point is the atomic procedures described in Annex 2, because this is the legal hook, and the goal is to start off by doing something not extremely complicated. I don't think here we have the expertise or the capacity to tackle the complexities behind very complex procedures that could be a concatenation of individual procedures involving different competent authorities. So let's say the floor is open for this discussion. Today, actually, we have identified that there are some concepts where the level of granularity could be enormous. You know, we could start having sub-concepts linked to major concepts like procedure. Indeed, what do you put inside the description of the procedure? So let's say it's very open, but we want to listen to you. If somebody has some ideas, that's great. But I would say that the starting point is the major level that is defined in the annex. And what we have to measure here with you is how to find the right balance, to strike a balance, not maybe going from one extreme, let's say free text, and here you put, it's up to you what you put, not to the other extreme, having very complicated and lengthy discussions after many weeks without reaching a conclusion. Something in between, maybe defining very key core components to bring some level of granularity to very complex concepts. But this is open for discussion today, absolutely. Whoever has a better idea, we are willing to listen to all of you. Yeah, Florian, you want to complement maybe?
Yes, well, simply saying that I stated 2 slides before, if we can go back to that. I think the idea is to be, as you said, Miguel, pragmatic. So let's start with simple things and progressively build on top of that. And that's why also we are a smaller group, not involving all member states, simply because we are basically the people who say they are willing to develop such a model. But of course, I agree with you, Ana Rosa, we need to discuss, okay, what do we understand by this model? And that's exactly what we'll do right after, is to say, okay, with which concept should we start? And then we'll make a proposition. And from this proposition, we can have discussions on what should be included or not within the model.
Yes, I like simplifications. So I agree with Miguel that we should start with the simplest case, which is a procedure processing by only one competent authority. However, the registering of a baby cola board is a bad example of that. So.
Yeah, but in a way, it's a good, in a way, or maybe it's a good example, Ana Rosa, because it's going to give us the dimension of the complexity, and we can take pragmatic approaches, thinking in the worst case scenario, you know, not to overkill the whole thing. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, for instance, I see that this use case. I see this use case is very useful for modeling the Article 9. Because in Article 9, you are giving general rules of what means to do something in a particular country. So in that case, yes, registering a vehicle abroad is involving several procedures, several regulation. There are so many specificities depending on the country. So that is a good example for the Article 9. But for modeling Article 10, in that case, I see it's not appropriated.
Okay, but I propose to come back to the use case right after, when everyone will have the opportunity to look at it together. Because no, I'm not sure that everyone had already the opportunity to look into the use case. So let's do that right after, Anna.
Yeah, and the use case is also not the intention is not to so the intention is really to give an example and to start from an example, also a simplified example, so not in all its complexity, and more more just as an example to start from, and not to find to see how complex it can get. So, but just to make it concrete, basically. So we can also, let's say, the use case itself is also simplified. It can also be looked at as in a simplified way as a starting point, and we can take some assumptions there.
Indeed. Good. I propose to move to the next and progressively move to the use case. You will quickly be there. So how is this going to be tackled today? You have all received the initial input spreadsheet, where we have done some analysis of the desk research. Sorry, some analysis of the regulation, and from there derived key concepts that we have identified from the certain articles, and we have also looked from another perspective is to what extent is such concept useful from a user perspective for finding the right information, for understanding the information that is given about specific domain areas. And from there, we have combined those two perspectives to propose a list of prioritization. This is an initial list, and we'll discuss based on that today. So this is one thing we have shared with you, and thank you very much to all of you who have answered still today, quarter before the webinar, with your input at national level. If you didn't have the time to do it. It's not a closed exercise, so meaning you can still do it after the webinar. It's valuable input, but of course we'll make use of the discussions of today to focus and scope the modeling exercise that will come. So that's the right side of the slide, where basically after this webinar we'll start modeling on our side and make an initial proposition. Here it's a screenshot from the previous exercise, but it doesn't have to look like this. And from there, we will share it with you and ask for feedback. This feedback will be mainly through GitHub at first, but you are free, of course, to also share some detailed comments via email. And we'll organize a further webinar, but we'll come back to that later on today. And then going a bit more into the details. What is the what are the key steps we see as part of the process for creating this data model? Is today we have the prioritization of the key concepts as mentioned. Then we analyze and identify existing standardization efforts like mentioned previously, CPSVP, other core vocabularies, etc. We draft a first data model, as I just mentioned, and then basically we enter into some iterations where we can discuss also control vocabularies where relevant, for example, for policy codes. Then you will also have the opportunity, as mentioned, to raise some comments or GitHub issues that we will incorporate, improve the initial proposition, and those are the iterations we'll go through. And once we reach a consensus or a stable version, then we'll basically have also the second webinar and finalize the data model. And from there, once finalized, it means also creating some distributions that are useful for you in terms of human readability, but also maybe machine readability, depending on our discussions for later phases and putting this in practice. So that's for the general workflow. Are there any questions? If not, I propose to move directly to the more collaborative part of the webinar, where basically we start identifying prioritizing. Yeah, so for today, as mentioned, we have identified the elements as part of the spreadsheet that we have shared with you. For the sake of the exercise, we have limited the number at the beginning to a smaller set. You will see that in Mural. And also to ease the discussions, we have put most of those elements as part of one use case that Ana Rosa was referring to. So the idea is really to focus on this right now. And as you can see on the screen, this is the prioritization column from the spreadsheet. And in the README, you have also some indications on how we built this prioritization, how we came with must, should, and nice to have in that order of importance. And of course, this is not written black on white, meaning that if you have comments or questions about this, feel free to say so. But yeah, so basically we start from there today and discuss it further. If we go to the next, then voila. And the use case that Ana Rosa was referring to is indeed information needed for registering a vehicle abroad. And we simplified indeed this use case where basically someone is moving from one country to another, in this case, France to Belgium, and would like to access and find information about, okay, what are the key steps of a procedure for registering my vehicle in the country abroad that I need to be aware of, in which language can I find it, and similar information. And from there, if if this person needs, who can I contact and how can I contact for getting more information or support. And I would like usually this person would like to receive such information via an online web page, and potentially, if the case requires it, to have additional documents supporting the information that is provided, and once before actually starting the procedure, the person would like to know, okay, which kind of evidence types or evidences will I need to provide, and will I have to pay anything? So are there some fees applicable? And finally, what can I expect once the procedure is closed, is fulfilled, as kind of output? So this is in a nutshell the use case on which we'll base ourselves. But we know, of course, this is not covering everything, and this is also a simplification, as Michael mentioned. So yeah, that's exactly why we have the discussion right now. So I propose to move to Mural. So
yeah,
you will see in the chat the link, and yeah, Maxim will quickly guide you through Mural on how to use it. If anyone has an issue to access it, please let us know in the chat. And Maxim, yeah, the floor is yours.
yes. So if you still look at the presentation on my screen of Mural and the whole board, you will see 3 big parts. So first of all, the introduction, then exercise 1 and exercise 2. So to start with, I will explain to you shortly how to use Mural, the basic functionality, so that we can all collaborate together. So first important thing is to zoom in and zoom out. So you can just use your scroller of your mouse. And this way we can all zoom into the introduction part. If any of you have an issue with that, to go to the introduction part and zoom into that, you will see it in the presentation, and let us know and we'll help you. And you can also use the zooming on the right bottom. It's also possible. So now I expect everybody to be in the introduction part. We will do a short tour de table. So who's in the room? So the idea is just to double click and create a sticky note. And then you can type in there your name and your organization and country. So I will shortly do it. So I'll double click anywhere in the box you can choose, like this. Then I will type my name and my organization and country. And I'll click just enter, and then you can place it anywhere you want by dragging and dropping. And it doesn't matter the color or where you put it. Yeah. Okay, I see it's working out. Good. And if you've made a mistake, you can just delete the sticky note.
And while everyone is creating their sticky notes, maybe we can start by introducing ourselves. I think that.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I will start. Well, normally you all know me. I'm Florian Barthélemy. I'm part of PwC, working with Miguel, Michiel, Maxime for some years now, as part of the Catalogue of Services Action, which is part of the ISA² program, and yeah. And as from there, yeah, we are active on the SDG for a while now, together with DG Grow.
Yeah, to complement that, so my name is Maxime Pittonvils. I'm also working for PwC Belgium, working on the Catalogue of Services project.
Well, I'll repeat my colleagues. So, Gloria and Maxime, been involved in the Catalogue of Services Action, I think since 2013 or 14, not entirely sure about that. And still helping out and working on this as we speak. So, yeah.
I didn't introduce myself. Actually, I'm Miguel Alvarez. I'm the project manager of this project, of this action in the ISA² program. I'm working in Digit in the interoperability unit.
Should we go from top to bottom and left to right?
Yeah, I see there are two colleagues from Portugal, Ama, Lisdalia, and Jorge. Maybe you want to introduce yourselves.
Yeah. Sorry, I've been quiet. My name is Jorge. I'm from Portugal, and I work with AMA, and in the digitalization of services for the Services Directive, and now for the SDG Annex 2.
Thank you, George.
Lisdalia. I work with George in AMA, and we are working in the SDG also.
Very good. Thank you both. Then we have from Poland, sorry for the pronunciation, Simon.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Simon.
Yeah, hello, my name is Szymon Mamrot and I'm from ILIM. This is a research body, and we support our ministry in implementing SDGR in Poland. I'm also involved in top project in Poland.
Great, thanks a lot. Going up to the second, let's say, column, Ana Rosa.
Good morning. I work for the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Digital Transformation, in particular the Secretary General for Digital Administration. I am part of the coordination and the national coordination team for the SDGR in Spain.
Great, thank you, Ana. Then we have Marco from the Netherlands.
Hi, this is Marco. I have been involved with the SDG for quite a while now. I work for the Bureau of the National Coordinator in the Netherlands.
Great, Marco, thanks a lot. Always supporting us in this project very much. Estonia, we have Stina.
Yes, good morning. My name is Stina Ovo and I am the National Coordinator for Estonia. And my workplace is Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications.
Thanks a lot, Stina, and welcome on board. Then in Germany, from BMI, we have Volker.
Yes, hello, my name is Volker. I'm supporting Christoph Harnoth, which is SDG coordinator in Germany and works for the Federal Ministry of Interior, Building and Community in Germany. Christoph, not me.
Thanks a lot, Volker. When maybe we can move Nikos to a bit to the left, we have Nikos from Greece.
Hello, I'm Nicholas Lex. I work for GRNet. It's a public body of the Ministry of Digital Governance, supporting the Ministry for the alignment with SDG and other IT issues.
Thanks a lot, Nikos. Kalimera. And we have also Valentini from Greece.
Yep, Kalimera from Athens. Yeah, I'm in the Greek SDG team supporting our national coordinator. Yep.
Thank you, Valentini. We moved now to Italy. Buongiorno, Paola, Vincenzo.
Buongiorno. Good morning, everyone.
Tutto bene?
Yeah, we have a sunny Italy as well. So we are happy to hear Belgium is sunny as well. And from Italy, we have 3 people on this table. We have Claudio Celeghin, who is, you know, he is responsible for all the information part of the regulation. And we have myself, Vincenzo Travascio, that are working on the procedure part of the implementation. Unfortunately, we have lost our expert on this topic, which is Georgia, because she has left to another organization. So sorry, be patient with us. We are starting on this issue, not from scratch, but as a beginner.
Thanks a lot, Paola, and the rest of the team for being here today with us, and grazie mille. Now we move to maybe Bulgaria. We have Asen, the coordinator of the Republic of Bulgaria, the national coordinator. Asen, are you there?
You are muted, Asen. But in the meanwhile, I propose to move to the next person, Miguel.
Yeah, we have Kirsi from Finland.
Greetings from very cloudy Helsinki. I'm Kirsi Mikkonen. I work in the KEHA Center and I'm part of the Finnish SDG team. We work for implementing the SDGR under the guidance of the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment. I'm just sorry we couldn't have experts from the Finnish service catalog here right now, but I hope we'll get them involved later on.
Yes, thanks a lot, Kirsi. And anyway, we are recording the webinar. We will share with you the recording. And since there will be, let's say, another webinar in 3-4 weeks' time, you can always share the preliminary findings and keep giving us more feedback in days to come. Okay, and I think Asen, are you there?
He said he had some audio problems, but
some issues with the audio. Okay, we can carry on, Florian, with our next activities, I guess.
So let's move to the first exercise. Know that everyone is getting familiar with Mural. So if you zoom out and go to the bottom of the page, you will see on the left the use case that we just described in the slides. And in the middle, you will see a list of concepts in gray boxes. And from this list of concepts, you will see a short description that is taken. It's normally the same as the one we shared in the spreadsheet. And it's usually coming from the regulation. And then you see 3 columns for where we will need your input, where we differentiate highly relevant, relevant, and not relevant. And basically what we would like you to do right now is to take a few minutes to start putting the colored dots on the right side next to your name, to the name of your country, in the right column next to each concept. So for example, we have already inserted some dots for the countries that have provided us with inputs via email. Feel free, of course, to adapt it if we got it wrongly. And then we'll give you a couple of minutes to do this. And then we'll go through each concept together to identify and start discussing if it should really be part of the initial data model or not.
Sorry, Florian.
Yeah, go ahead.
When we answer this table, we need to think on the relevant regarding of course the relevant of that concept in the model, but regarding this Article 10, I mean, what information we think is relevant for what content is relevant for the information on the procedure?
So the idea is not to cover all the elements that are relevant for each granular procedure related to the discussion we had a bit earlier from your question, but more to think about on your Europe portal, what are the key information types that would be useful for an end user to find, and in order to understand, first to search and find good results through your Europe, and to understand it easily, so that the information about rights, rules, obligations, procedures, and assistance and problem-solving services are easily reachable and understandable.
So in this context, regarding the simplification decision we made before, the step of a procedure is the internal step of the procedure processing.
Yeah,
the user is not involved.
It's up to discussion with the others, but we could look at it from that angle, indeed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think to summarize what Florian was saying, there's two angles that you can take to indicate whether something is highly relevant or relevant. It's one, what is required to be compliant with the regulation and the different articles that we discussed. And secondly, what as a citizen or a business or as a user would you need in terms of information to make your search useful, or what basis would you need to search for? So these are the two angles that we're looking into, if I'm summarizing that correctly, Florian.
Yeah, thanks. If there are other questions on this data, I think we still need a bit of time to allow everyone to put this input or her input.
Please also take the floor in case one of these concepts are not clear to you.
My question?
Yeah, Simon.
Yeah, I raised my question. The consent procedure, you mean the name of the procedure, yes? Or?
Yeah, so at least it should include the name. That's kind of the starting point, but it's also a placeholder. Like we should have information about procedure, and then we can discuss which kind of information we'll need.
So the general description of the procedure, yeah? Well,
yeah, for example.
For example, yes.
Yeah.
It could be the title and the description, the general description. This is one of the tricky concepts that we will revisit afterwards, if I'm not mistaken, Florian.
Yes, indeed, and also related to the question of Anaraza right before, the link between which angle do we take for procedure, because there is a clear definition in the regulation. There is also the Annex 2, which lists procedures, but that are in certain countries understood as products, in other countries understood as services. So we need to define a bit, okay, what will we use as terminology here? And of course, the idea is to be always aligned with the regulation, but in a way that is also understandable and useful as part of the scope of this exercise.
And the second question, in the contact details, the description is the same like in the language. I think you meant in this place the contact details of authority, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Regarding the authority, because our federal nature, I think that for our citizens, or for the citizens, is not relevant the authority itself, the body, the administrative body, but the scope of the procedure. I mean, I miss the scope of the procedure. What I'm trying to say is it is relevant if I would like to ask something to a particular regional government, but within that government, I don't mind if the procedure, or it is not so relevant if the procedure is under the competence of the, I don't know, the Department of Economic Affairs or the Department of whatever, because those departments usually change a lot. So I miss the geographical scope of the procedure here.
Yeah, and that could be covered by country, which or by a mix between the authority and the country in which it represents the authority. Yeah, you get my point. If you are missing dots, you can also copy paste. It works as well. And maybe quickly asking, because I see that I think most people have finished. Do we need to still give 1 or 2 minutes?
Yes, just a couple of minutes more and we can finish off.
Yeah, thanks. I will adapt it immediately. Give me a second.
Hello, Volker speaking here. I have a question to the evidence. In your table, you mention Article 3, 6, 13, and 14, but don't mention Article 10, which is the relevant one in my point of view.
Just give me a second. Sorry, Volker, can you repeat?
Regarding evidence, I think the Article 10 is a relevant article to reference, but this is exactly the one article which is not mentioned to evidence. So I'm confused.
And it's true that in Article 10, we see evidence type and evidence format, and we have listed those from referring to Article 10, but not evidence itself. But so you're right. Article 10 should definitely be there.
And it's quite different in Article 10, in Article 13, and in Article 14. Because in Article 10, it's the information about the evidence which has to be provided. And in Article 13 and 14, it is how evidence should be handled during the implementation of online procedures. So that's my point of view. It's in some parts of the spreadsheet. There's a mix of requirements about information on procedures and requirements on implementing the procedures. It's a little bit difficult to understand how to fill in the relevance.
So
here is purely on information.
Yeah, voilà.
Sorry to say, Volker, here is purely information. If you remember in the SDG, there are two parts. One is on information And the second part is on the technical system implementing the cross-border exchange of evidences, the implementation side of the exchange of evidences. We are not addressing this second part. This second part is being addressed by OOP. Here is just the purely information, how to, when you provide information to a citizen about what kind of administrative procedures they need to undergo to do something, you need to get the information, okay, in order to get a license or a permit, you need to provide this set of evidences, blah, 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 blah. But we don't talk about the implementation.
Yes, but then it would be nice if you don't include any articles above 12.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a right point. We will make a correction.
You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Yeah.
That we had difficulties to answer this because of this misinterpretation.
Yeah,
I understand this.
We will correct it and forward it again to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Should we start? You can still complement what you have done so far, but I propose to start the
yes,
one by one. So if you are all zooming in on the first one on procedure, so I see that most of you consider it as highly relevant, and some of you are relevant, but no one as not relevant. So I think this is rather clear. Do you all agree with the description? The description is coming from the regulation, no? But do you agree with this description as procedure is a sequence of actions that must be taken by users to satisfy the requirements?
In charge of a competent authority.
Yeah, so you mean that's something we should consider, of course, while modeling that a procedure should be linked to an authority. That's what you mean, Anna?
Yes, is because the first discussion. I mean, if the procedure is has a broader scope or involving several competent authorities or not. So if we simplify to if we choose the simplest scenario, then we should complement the definition of procedure, telling that is in charge or is responsible. The procedure processing is responsibility of only one competent authority.
Yeah, and okay, because today we are not distinguishing procedure from more broader concepts like services or products. But based on our discussion, we would like to make this distinction. So we'll come to that, but I think, does anyone want to react on the fact that as part of this exercise we use procedure as really the procedural steps or actions for getting something done, like for receiving advices, for registering, for getting a certificate? Do we all agree on this?
It's Paola.
Yeah.
The situation we have, at least in Italy, is that for each procedure, we have several services that are associated, several use cases that compose the procedure. So we have an intermediate layer between procedure and a step of procedure, because our model is procedure, then and services, and then we define the step of those services or use cases as you prefer.
Parana, please, could you give us an example of what is a procedure and the services that compose that procedure, please?
Yeah, for example, registering of address, that is change of address, that is one of the procedure, and we have different steps. If it is a person that is already resident in Italy, or is a child, or is a person that moves from abroad, and so on. And the step of those procedures, of those services, are different.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
So maybe at least for us, it will be useful to add this additional entity, which is either use case or service, as you prefer.
That's precisely the problem I would like. I wanted to highlight that. Of course, between Italy and Spain there are differences, but also within Spain, with the different administrations in Spain, there are also differences. So we need to be very specific on the terms because of that, because we all manage the same terms but with different meanings. So yes. I don't mind the meaning, but I would like to fix one of them.
Yeah, and does anyone want to react on what Paola explained with procedure, services, and steps?
Yeah, Volker.
In fact, I don't want to reply, but I have an additional question.
Go ahead.
Okay, my additional question is: are we looking at a procedure, for instance, if you're looking at your case file with a car, is the procedure both parts of the use case? In Germany, for instance, you have to unregister a flat, and then when you move to another country, you have to register there. In other countries, the first part is not relevant, but the second part. So are we looking to the part of both countries and call it a procedure, or just in one country to call it a procedure? When you look at cross-country procedures, sometimes you have to, in the origin, you have to do something, and in the destination, you have to do something also. So
yeah, but these are two independent procedures.
I just want to know if you...
The regulation, fortunately or unfortunately, is not looking at this kind of to harmonize cross-border procedures. It's the national principle of subsidiarity remains. So these are two individual, separate procedures.
I completely agree with you, but I just want to make sure, according to your use case, if we define a procedure as the whole thing or just the country-based part. So I'm completely agree with you. Yes.
The national dimension. National dimension.
Yes, of course. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and maybe just to react on the previous question of Ana Rosa and Paula. I think that you're completely right, Ana Rosa, and that's also our intention to agree on the semantics, on the terminology to be used. Now we're actually first just looking at, okay, if we look at the concepts mentioned in the regulation, what are the information requirements and where do the priorities lie? And I think in one of the following steps, not necessarily in this workshop, probably not, I think, we're going to see how can we align indeed those terminologies, those semantics, also reusing what has already been done, for instance, in the context of CPS-VAP and other standardization exercises. So yeah, but maybe there's other people that want to add things or react on that. I saw that Jorge had his hand up, or no, he lowered it again.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I had my hand up, but then I lowered it because I was not sure if I should, because I was following up on what you just said, that we should work first on some sort of ontological or definition of terms first before, because I was listening to everybody, and we will have this a lot. Yes. Different countries, different regions will have different meanings for the same thing, and if you don't close those first and we agree on a standard, then we won't have a model.
Agree.
5%.
Agreed. And now we just want to identify what are actually the information requirements, and then we can indeed very quickly, let's say, align on how we will call those things and how we will align on the terminology to be used. But first, we want to see what kind of information do you actually need to fulfill the user's needs, to fulfill the requirements from the regulation, and answer as an answer to the use case that we're proposing.
Yeah, but I think also that it is very relevant for citizens to understand what are the different situations. I mean, Paola exposed one of the cases where they have a specific terminology, but beyond the terminology, there are different cases when you have a procedure, and depending on that procedure, within that procedure, depending on the case, you have different services. Depending on the circumstances of the applicant. But then Volker also exposed another possible case when the procedure is involving more than one country, because, for instance, for the registry of an address, you require the previous registration, even it happens abroad. And also, for instance, in our case, in the registering of a vehicle in general, not only abroad vehicles, but any kind of vehicle, it's that name is used in general, but it involves several procedures, other more atomic procedures, because you need to pass the technical check in a private company, and then you have to pay some taxes in the municipality. And when you have all those procedures completed, then you go to the traffic agency to register the vehicle. So in this case, we have a kind of overall procedure that is composed by a particular procedure provided by different authorities. So I think that consider all the cases that that a citizen can face, of the different situations. We should also let them clear what are the cases they are facing.
Just to introduce another kind of perspective, maybe to help maybe thinking of feasible scenarios, particularly to your reaction, Ana Rosa and Paola. Here, at the end of the day, what we are doing is more oriented to have, let's say, some basic information at YourEurope portal, bringing quality to this information and some level of detail. But of course, we cannot miss the perspective that behind YourEurope portal, the citizen at some point will be redirected to the national or to the different governmental websites of the different countries where you will have the more detailed information. So this is about striking a balance. We cannot, of course, we cannot aim to have the whole detail and rich information with all the little details of the different services, with all the complexities at your YourEurope portal. The YourEurope portal, as I see it, is a bit of a yellow page. It has to go a bit beyond a yellow page. It cannot be only title of the procedure and the link, but it cannot be either the whole set of information with all the granularity depending on the, let's say, on the situation of the user and so on. So it's something in between. This is more or less our perspective, to try to find a compromise, but neither doing something very simple that at the end of the day is not going to bring added value to your YourEurope portal, nor to aim to have the same level of detail and description that it will be at the national websites.
But Miguel, now I am a bit puzzled because, as you know, the YourEurope portal does not contain any kind of information. All the information is in our websites. So the your YourEurope portal only have an index. So now I'm confused. I don't know if we are working on the metadata of the index, and or we are talking about the information pages, because all the information is in our websites. Non-information.
We are talking about information
in YourEurope.
that needs to be given. Yeah. just to bring clarity, we are talking about the information that needs to be given so that the YourEurope portal can fulfill these information requirements from Article 9 and 11 that initially are defined in Article 4.
But for YourEurope portal is not fulfilling these articles. These articles are obligations for the national web portals, not for the YourEurope. YourEurope has not complied with those articles.
There is an obligation, and I'm going back. Just give me a minute.
There are 3 kinds of information pages, which are included in Article 2, and their contents, the quality of those information.
Article 4.2.
Yes, but YourEurope is only, as you say, a yellow page. I mean, YourEurope does not contain any kind of information at all. The only thing that is contained in the YourEurope portal are search engines, and those search engines are based on index built on our national pages.
Yes, and the information is being semantically tagged and harvested. Here there are 2 goals. My understanding is that from a legal point of view, at least Article 4.2 says the Commission shall ensure that the YourEurope portal provides users with easy online access to the following, and it's the same obligations as for the member states when it comes to Article 4.1. Okay. Of course, the Commission at the moment, how is ensuring that this information doing through the repository of links? But
no, from indexes. That was one of our main misunderstandings with the Commission. The SDG metadata, as do you remember those metadata that were included in the implementing that on feedback and statistics? Those metadata that are included in the repository of links are only used for the feedback and statistics, but the search engine is not based on those metadata. Yeah. The search engine is only based on a Google indexer with a typical functionality of a Google indexer.
Yeah, and so a question, Anna, is:
but let me
these that we need to a bit the information that is on YourEurope at this stage?
There is no information on YourEurope. There is only a search engine.
Exactly, but is it sufficient?
The problem is that I don't understand how the Google search engine works. I am working with Alexandru to try and understand how the Google index is working, because they don't consider the SDG metadata.
But here there are 2 things. At least this is what we discussed with Alex and Gro. Indeed, what the information that is now being collected from the member state websites for the search engine could be improved if this information in a way is enriched, so this data model could serve to these purposes. This is one consideration. As it is now, there is not any kind of harmonization for the search engine to collect this information from the national websites. This is the first consideration. And the second consideration, our understanding is that there is already an obligation from the Commission side to ensure that YourEurope portal, you get this information on rights, procedures, and assistance services as per Article 2 points A, B, and C. And then is Article 1911 that defines the information requirements. So what the obligation you have at the website is also, the national website is also on your YourEurope portal through this Article 4.2, right?
Yes, for the findability. So the obligation is the findability, and I agree with you that the indexing, the YourEurope indexing could be improved, because now it's really poor, it's really insufficient. So I agree with you that we can collaborate.
My understanding, Ana Rosa, is that if you look at Article 4, you see the 2 sub-articles, and it looks like both are at the same level. From a practical point of view, we cannot expect YourEurope portal to have the whole detailed information that is in the national web pages. So what we are building here is a compromise to fulfill this obligation from Article 0.2 to improve the user experience, of course, and the searchability. But we cannot expect to have the whole detail that is hosted in the national website. Otherwise, YourEurope will be a repetition of the national websites, what is impossible.
But I agree, Miguel. I'm not discussing that. What I'm trying to do is to be aligned with your view, because I understood that I misunderstood the objection and the goal of this exercise. I was answering this exercise as to fulfill the Article 10, and that was my misunderstanding. What I understand now, and please tell me if I am correct, is that you want to do this exercise to improve the YourEurope functionality in order to locate the information that is under the gateway. So the only way to improve it is providing semantic to create a semantic web for the enrichment of the Google in search engine. Is that correct?
Yes, and secondly, that the whole idea of YourEurope is to provide a kind of harmonized user experience through a single portal. And so the idea of this exercise is also to align on few set of information that can give this kind of user experience independently from the country to which you are requesting information or a service. You see what I mean?
Yes. So in this regard, for instance, I consider that the contact details are not relevant at the YourEurope portal level, because what is important is to have access to the national web page where you can find everything.
Yes, let's say you're totally right. It's kind of having the YourEurope perspective when it comes to Article 10. To the minimum information that should be present so that the citizen can search for the information and the results are optimal. And then the whole set of content will be available at the national websites. And also, indeed, this data model will help to bring this semantic website to YourEurope portal to structure the information according to potentially this data model. Okay.
Good. Does everyone agree with this so that we can?
Yeah, I think Volker was kind of posting something. You want to say something, Volker?
No, that's just away from keyboard and back to keyboard.
Okay.
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 I don't know if the others, is the scope clear? Because this is important. Paola, the others, Asen, the scope is clear.
I think we were all a bit confused. I mean that, it's Valentini, sorry.
Valentini.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, please.
What Anarosa now does, like relocating the dots, a lot of, some of us, I think we feel like we should do the same it's a different point of view. I see this as metadata in YourEurope now, but completing this initially, I had also the aspect of, do I see these as tags in the national pages notified to YourEurope? So I don't know, maybe we need some time to review it again.
Yeah, but we can definitely
move the dots, I mean.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. It's good that we have had this discussion. I think it's important that we're all aligned, and I think as a summary, the context in which we're working is, of course, the SDG regulation and the particular articles. But what we're trying to do here is indeed find a way on improving, let's say, the functionality that YourEurope or the search is providing by giving people and giving people better results if they go via this portal. And that the way that we do that is that we think we should do that is indeed by providing the data structure to the data that is lying behind it, so it can be queried in a better way. And I think the whole point of semantic web is a way of doing that technologically wise. But that's what we're trying to do. So what are actually the tags or the terms that we can add in the content lying behind the repository of links to enable users to get a better search result and look for the things and find the things that they're looking for. So I guess that's right, what I'm saying. Please correct me. And then maybe indeed Florian or Miguel and Maxime, maybe we can take some time to first of all to check whether everyone that's everybody clear, that's clear for everyone, and secondly maybe to do a second iteration and see, knowing this, is there
absolutely any... and please we can stop here and have a further reflection of it. If you consider that maybe we should go in a different direction, tell us, because it's something it can be revisited and we can double check with Grow. But at the same time, we don't have, let's say, we are not trying to do something here to impose obligations on your side, like doing very complicated mappings to a common data model, that is going to be so enriched that at the end of the day, it's like your Europe portal will be something with all the level of detail that is more expected at the national level, because that could pose also a burden on you to do the mapping to maybe structured information in a more streamlined way. It's just to not to go from this kind of a starting point in your Europe that is maybe not optimal to further enrich it, but to further enrich to achieve at least some minimum goals that you can see in these articles. But please tell us, because it can be very visited, if you consider that maybe we can go beyond this.
I think indeed Valentini raised hand, so...
okay, Valentini.
Meanwhile, I just wrote it just to make it clear through an example, because I think it's the best way. For example, the fee concept, the last one. I see it's a meta. We can see it as a metadata in a national web page, but there's no point in discussing it for the YourEurope portal, since it's at national level, not at EU level. So if we understand everyone correct, there should be no dots there, but only at not relevant column, right? Or again, we are confused.
No, I think it's a valid discussion, but you can say it in two ways. It's like, do you want the user, the visitor, like citizens or businesses, to be able to see the cost of a procedure, the fees required before accessing the national page, or on your Europe, or it's not needed? And both are okay, but we simply need to agree on that.
Yeah. But we're in the correct path now. We see this table through the aspect of your Europe portal level, let's say. Okay, finally.
but Florian, it is not only about what information is useful for the citizen to see in the YourEurope portal. It's also, for instance, in the Valentini example of fees, you need to maintain that information. So it's not so easy to maintain certain type of information, because the portal, the YourEurope portal, is not always visiting our pages to update things, or we cannot tackle to maintain metadata within the repository of links or whatever. So
I agree. It should be automated if we start asking many information. Yes,
I think that the goal of this new regulation, because we had a YourEurope portal before, with centralized information. And with this regulation, they try to move the information to the national websites precisely because the maintenance of information at the central level is difficult, and it was not working.
Yes, but I think centralization or not or decentralization is an issue that actually is a discussion that is can be held parallel from this discussion, because basically this is just about how we improve the search and the data, where the data sits. It can be central or it can be decentralized, but it doesn't really matter. So Google is also not centralized. Or is also not centralizing all the data of the web. It's a decentralized solution, and that's the same technology that's being used for search. But it also works better and it gives better results if the data behind is structured in a way by adding tags or any other kind of structure. And I think we want to do just the same here as adding additional structure, even in a decentralized environment, providing the framework to do that, a model to do that. So actually, the search that sits on YourEurope portal can you can do richer way of searching, but you can also get back richer results, and that's disregardless of whether that information is on YourEurope itself, on a centralized database, or in the portals of the member states that are actually where the information is being held and maintained, and where it should be actually and maintained. That will indeed ease the maintenance of that information if it's decentralized.
Yeah, but Valentin is right. I mean, fees is not relevant at this stage because, for instance, if you think on Google, because you can see, for instance, when you search for some products, you can see the price of those products just in the results of the Google search, but it is relevant for the Google users to know about the prices because they are comparing things. But in this case, they are not comparing procedures. They are not comparing, say, oh, this procedure is too expensive. I would like to choose another procedure. So Valentin is right. It is not relevant at all, the fees information at the YourEurope portal level.
Okay. If everyone agrees,
it's a very valid point indeed. And please also keep in mind that what we are building here is the starting point. That's why we insist that at this stage, maybe it's better not to be very ambitious. Otherwise, this will never take off. It doesn't prevent us in the future from extending this to something more granular, more atomic, more detailed. But I don't think it's realistic at this stage to envision something with this level of complexity. It's also to understand why, in a way, we are changing a bit the approach. As last year, we cannot impose to you a data model that is very complex, that you will have to do the mapping for all sorts of national services. It's like having your Europe portal vision to do what are the minimum considerations to improve the user experience. And from this moment on, you have to do some adaptations or some mappings, or you expose the information and then the portal can do the mapping and harvesting. But it's mirroring. But if we aim at the beginning for a very ambitious data model, at the end of the day, also there will be a bit of a burden on your side. You understand? So it's to strike a balance, to improve. As it is now, your Europe portal can be improved, certainly. And this is what we are trying to do, but at the same time, not to overpopulate the portal with a new data model that will have to be mirrored at a national level, with a lot of complexities, and at the end of the day, it will not be feasible to automate this kind of processes to keep the information up to date. In this regard, maybe Mark, because Mark, I see you have a bit of a concern with this. Maybe you would like to say something. Marco, sorry, no Mark. Marco.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've been having this discussion for about half an hour. I think it would be really useful to make explicit the goal that you have with this new exercise. I think it's quite different from the approach we took last year. We used the SDG data model internally within the Netherlands, within our member state, to model our own information and to make sure that our information was standardized within our nation. So all our municipalities are conforming to it. The regional governments, the national government, they all express their products and services in terms of the SDG data model. that was our goal. But the goal you have here with this simpler model is to increase findability and to harmonize the user experience. So I think it would be a first step to introduce this model would be to make it explicit what your goal is.
Mm-hmm. And maybe Marco, related to the point of Michiel, is also a bit up to you. If you say that, and Miguel said earlier that one benefit of this model could be used as a starting point for member states to harmonize information at national level. So, I mean, it's also a bit up to you to say what is useful as part of the
Exactly.
We are happy to put additional elements if we can find consensus or if it's useful at national level as well, or we can even differentiate both. But I fully agree with you. We need to make clear what is the purpose of this model. And from the discussions we are having, there is one track which is purely YourEurope and how to improve the findability. And there is a second track which could be how to ensure a minimum level of harmonization between countries, including then the national web pages. But so both are okay or can be targeted, but the purpose behind is slightly different.
Yes, and actually, because it's important indeed to listen to you, we can address this other case, but we decided to step back because we considered that we didn't have the legal, let's say, mandate to go that far, and probably that could overcomplicate things. Having a kind of overarching common data model could impose some obligations. We saw in this, Marco, basically in this workshop that we had last year in Brussels, there was not consensus. We saw many member states that they didn't like the idea of having a common reference model to structure the information. But certainly we can work in this direction on a voluntary basis. What we are doing here is the starting point. So what is going to be done for your Europe portal could be further enriched in case some member states would like to reuse it to structure the information with some more level of detail. But we need to listen to you, right? Maybe if not today, because you don't have yet a clear view. Maybe it would be worth, today we have 10 member states, to tell us if you would be considering adopting or using a common data model to structure the information according to these information requirements from Article 9 and 11. So this way it would be very beneficial not to focus only from the YourEurope angle perspective, but also more from the member state perspective. So if maybe now somebody would like to express their interest on this, we can take note. So I understand, Marco, that you, in a way, you are using already the last year SDG data model for this purpose. Other member states interested in this, in using this model back at home to structure the information? Okay, so for the time being, we can keep this. The current approach is basically more on your Europe side.
Yeah.
We find it really useful to have the SDG data model as a basis for our national implementation. This does not mean that we've completely implemented it the way you designed it, but we cover all the information that is in it. I think that simplification, the thing we're doing today, really makes sense, and it's a very complicated material, and there are so many government authorities that have to work with it. You should keep it simple. So I think with that in mind, this is a really good exercise.
Great. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
And I don't know, Stina, you were active in the chat. I don't know, and at a certain point you raised hand. I don't know if you want to.
No, I wrote what I wanted, so I can give it in writing. Maybe it will be more clear, because it seems that the line between things right now is quite fragile, and we understand the things in different way. So I think it would be a lot better if we wrote it down. So maybe it would be easier.
Yeah, sure. Good. So for now, do you still want to go through certain of the elements from a new angle, or do we need to give you some time to reflect on it based on what we have been discussing?
We would like to have some time to digest it. It's all very interesting, and it deserves more time from our side to work on it.
Yeah, no problem. And then I propose to switch back to the slides for now then. And let's discuss maybe the timeline so that we agree on, okay, what are the next steps? Yeah, thanks, Maxime. So this is the initial proposition. So today is the 24th, is where we have the first webinar, and from there the idea was to, as mentioned earlier, from the list of concepts, to propose an initial data model. Should we give you 2 additional weeks or 1 additional week to provide input by written? Will that be sufficient?
Okay, sorry, thanks. You mean something more than just reviewing the existing Excel, right? Sorry, it's just not clear.
Yeah, reviewing the Excel or the mural. You can use both. We can leave the mural open if you want, if it's intuitive for you to use it. But of course, the Excel is more detailed. On our side, we'll also make sure, based on the comments from Volker, to remove all articles after 12. Because what we really focus on is definitely not the exchange of evidence, etc. So not the second part of the SDG related to OOP. But so yeah, reviewing the spreadsheet, and based on the discussion we had in the past 40 minutes, position yourself compared to the exercise, like clearly stating if you are interested in having some exercises or support from our side in defining a harmonized model as a starting point for describing your information at national level. That's the second aspect. But while reviewing the spreadsheet, what we are interested in for now, what we said is look at it from your Europe perspective and how to improve the searchability. I don't know if this clarifies your point. Okay, so 1 week, Valentini. Okay, and the others, if you all agree with that, then we'll adapt it, and then we can have based on that, we can have a next discussion, or we can directly propose a draft model. Both alternatives are okay. If you need a discussion based on your inputs, we can have it. So I would like to feel a bit, okay, what do you want? Normally, yes, Valentini. Maxime, can you confirm that mural can be open for any time in the coming week?
Yes, I think it's valid for 2 weeks, the link.
Okay. And if not, we'll
yes, we can. If it's an issue, then we can refresh the link and send it again to everyone.
Yeah.
Just let us know if the access fails, and then we will solve it.
And so to everyone, do you want to have an additional discussion a bit similar to what we had today, but then focusing really on based on your input, or?
Yeah, it will be very useful. So we can discuss much more as a final feedback from our side. Because today is, from our side at least, just a brainstorming.
Yeah,
Next time we will be able,
Okay.
And Vincenzo, that has left, but not yet left, is asking if we can have 2 weeks for reviewing, because we are working also on the implementing act for, and we have very busy days.
Yeah, so you like it more than a week? That's what you mean?
Yeah, if 2 weeks will be great for us.
But let's fix maybe the next webinar. We can discuss briefly a day that would work for this group.
Okay.
But next to us from in 1 week time, I think the Easter holidays is starting.
Yeah,
so I don't
that's
know
the
if
issue as
everyone
well.
is
Yeah.
available.
Maybe from our side, either the 8th or 9th of April could work. So I don't know for the other members.
I suggest that we come up with some proposals and that we use a tool to let people vote.
We can make a tool also.
Because I think it will be a bit difficult with 26 people to discuss this right now live. Unless,
Okay, I will send a doodle. That will be the easiest, and decide on a webinar, on an extra webinar. Then. Okay. Good. Are there any other questions or remarks, Miguel or anyone?
No, from my side. Yeah, please review the. If you have any question, you can come back to us, and certainly you need to digest maybe this new approach. If there is still a strong interest from your side to go a bit beyond this goal, please let us know, and we can always reconsider this. But yeah, we keep in touch basically.
Yeah, good. But so we'll come back to you with an updated spreadsheet and a couple of questions, and also some information based on our discussion, so that you can really position yourself and understand what we are aiming. Okay. And with that, I propose to close it here with 6 minutes in advance for today, and hope to talk to you very soon. Yeah, but I don't think Valentin, it has to do with the discussion.
He was, holding his head. Oh my God, this is gonna take longer than expected.
No, I can tell you, I was looking at a different thing in parallel. It's not really this. But thank you for your support and your understanding. It would be good to get maybe a more detailed reaction from some of you, in case you are really interested in following the same approach as the Netherlands, So we rely on you. Everything is still open. We are trying to follow a pragmatic approach, but please let us know if you are interested in getting some support to structure the information back at home. But in a way, what we are doing here is going to is with the mindset of mirroring on your side. I mean, the portal cannot really collect this information. At the end of the day, it's not exposed. That's why we are trying to minimize the mappings, on the implementation side. But let us know.
Yeah. Indeed. Good. Okay.
Okay. Have a nice day.
Thank you all, and talk to you very soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Goodbye.